168. We're talking about technology and communication. We're continuing our discussion on relationship skills, specifically focusing in on communication, which is central to all of our relationships. And it's important for us to recognize how our communication has changed through technology. I saw a stat the other day that I thought was pretty crazy. That the first recorded official human flight, the Wright brothers, Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, was in 1903. And the moon landing was in 1969. So that means in 66 years, we went from people speculating on whether someone could fly, like a manned aircraft of some kind, to leaving Earth's atmosphere, landing on the moon. That's crazy. 66 years. That means there were people who, in their memories, went from it seemingly being impossible to people traveling in space, essentially. So it's pretty wild to think about how quickly our technology advances, especially in the last 100 years. And we see that a lot with our communication technology now. Things have changed so much. I think of since when I was a kid, things have changed a lot. Not to sound old-timey, but I really remember being a kid and you just go to a buddy's house to see if they were available to hang out. Or you called the landline from your landline with the phone numbers that you either had to remember or maybe you had written down on a sheet of paper that was hung up next to the phone or on the fridge or something like that. And you'd call, and if they didn't answer, you just didn't talk to them, and then you went about your day. Then I've been through a lot of those changes where I think I got my first cell phone like my senior year of high school. Maybe it was like a track phone where you could add minutes to it and you had so many minutes, and then you got like eventually the cell phone plan where it's like different times of day you had unlimited calls, and then texting, really became a thing. And that was a big change. And then we had like the MSN Messenger on the computer. Remember that? I remember when we got a computer when I was growing up, still living in Mason City, and it had a modem on it. We didn't really know what that was for, but it was like, you could hook it into the phone line. I don't even know if people were really calling it the internet back then, but you could hook it into the phone line and dial into the phone line, and it made some crazy noise. Those of you remember dial-up internet. And before we really knew what you could do, I remember actually being like, well, you could like send a message to someone. You could send an electronic mail to someone. And be like, okay, that's kind of crazy. Then that changes very quickly. By the time I'm in college, Facebook came out when I was in college. I remember a buddy talking to me on the phone. He went to University of Iowa. And back then, Facebook was only for college students. You had to have a college email to even get an account. And this friend of mine was like, hey man, you should get Facebook. Which that's a weird thing to say to someone if you've never heard those words together before. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he was like, well, you can put pictures of yourself on there. You can see other people's pictures. You can be friends on there, connect with people. And I remember thinking, why would I want to do that? But me and all my buddies made Facebook accounts, like the initial Facebook accounts. And even then, if you wanted to add pictures, you have to take pictures on a digital camera and plug it into the computer and upload it onto your profile. So we had Facebook accounts and MySpace accounts. And it was, a new way to keep track of people. And then that changes, especially with the smartphone, where all these things can be in the palm of our hand, all these social media apps and things. And Facebook has changed so much. Now it's not this college kid app. So far as I can tell, it's for middle-aged people to post really strong opinions about things they haven't really done a lot of research into. But it changes, and that, for instance, that shifts away from being something that younger people are using to it's TikTok or whatever now. So that landscape of communication has changed so quickly, and it continues to change really quickly. And that's something that we have to be aware of and talk about, understand how it impacts us. And that's what I want you all thinking about this week is how does your technology impact your communication and your mental health? That's something that worries me, freaks me out a little bit because of all of you, all of my students on your phone so much, all that connection to technology. We have research that's out there that young people who spend more time on their phones, have more screen time, tend to have higher levels of anxiety, depression, suicide, mental health issues, all those sorts of things. So that worries me. That's, two of my kids have cell phones now, my own children, and that is something I'm constantly concerned about. Well, how much time are they spending on that? Those things. And it's a weird balance from the parent side too. Now there's all these apps where you can track everybody and do all these things, and I'm kind of leery of that too. I think it's important to have some freedom and to have restrictions and rules for using our technology, that sort of thing. So I want to know how you feel about that. How does the technology impact your communication? I think it's important for us to still practice face-to-face communication skills. Maybe there will come a time where that is not much of an essential skill. I don't know. But right now, I think there's still a lot of value in face-to-face, person-to-person communication. I think we get a lot out of that. And I do think it's a very, very important skill. If you can do that, if you can communicate effectively with people in person, that gives you a leg up in whatever you want to do in life. So it's a skill we still have to practice. And I want you thinking about how your technology impacts your mental health. What are some of the things that it does that maybe aren't so good, that can be negative sometimes? And on the flip side, what are some positives that you get from your interaction with technology? There are some good things. I don't want this to be a all negative thing. I like being able to connect with friends of mine who live all over the country. This is the easiest time ever to connect with people from all over. I like being able to follow certain stuff on Instagram, for instance, where I can look up different coaching things or whatever it is, and it's right there and you can go through pretty quickly and kind of lead you down different rabbit holes. I do like that. But it comes with a need to manage some of those things. Any new technology has that, and we're really in the infancy of being disconnected through the digital world, through the internet, through all those things. This is still new in the story of human history, and I think we're still figuring a lot of that stuff out, and we have to do that. We have to have those conversations and decide what is healthy for us individually, what are some things we need to cut out, how to better manage those things. So that's how we're going to start looking at managing our technology and how we communicate through technology by looking at some of the positive and negative impacts. Till next time, much love.